name is Catherine Papadopoulos, and I'm going to talk to you today about the benefits of classical ballet. My research was inspired by the article "Why is Dancing So Good for Your Brain?" by Christopher Berglund. Martha Graham once said, "Dance is the hidden language of the soul." And she was right. Dance is a very unique part of our culture. However, ballet, which is a form of dance, is one of the most unique and most beneficial forms of dance there is. Ballet increases development in the brain. For example, dancers have sustained attention spans, remarkable memory capacity too. Ballerinas are often asked to perform an exercise just from memory, usually either from talking or just watching their ballet teacher perform the exercise. Ballerinas also have earlier literacy and reading, superior ability in manipulating short and long-term memories information, learning from watching, which is again watching a ballet teacher do an exercise and then being asked to perform that without, marking it or doing it yourself. Geometric representation. Usually dancers are asked to make specific formations on stage, and they usually have to be very straight. And ballet also helps you learn French. This is an example of just observation of a dance teacher. These girls in the back are doing what's called learning from watching, which is watching their ballet dancer do the exercise and just marking it in preparation for when they perform the exercise. This is an example of the geometric representation. The Bolshoi ballet has very, very straight lines. And that's what a dancer is really taught to do, and that's how it changes their mind, is they're taught to perform and stick straight lines in accordance with their other dancers. This is just another example of the symmetry that dancers have to create on stage. The functions of the brain are developed by dancing as well. In most of the lobes of the brain. So they exercise the frontal lobe, the temporal lobe, the occipital lobe, and the parietal lobe, with the mathematical aspects of ballet, such as the logic behind it and that kind of thing, as well as memory, as well as vision and learning from watching, as well as emotions and expressing on stage how you feel without speaking. Dancers also have unique interests in art, literature, and music compared with other students. And music produces alpha waves that kind of make the brain into a calm state that increases learning and perception. To be a dancer, you have to perform artistically as well as athletically. So here we have Jillian Murphy from American Ballet Theater performing 32 fouettes from the Black Swan variation from Swan Lake. It is truly an amazing feat that Miss Murphy can perform like this. However, if she were not a dancer who had practiced this so much, she would not be able to do this. Miss Murphy can only do this can only do this because of her brain plasticity. This is because her inner ear organs, which are here, connected to the brain, and her cerebral cortex, over there, are either suppressing or ignoring signals of dizziness, or are smaller altogether. And this actually stops her from being dizzy while she turns 32 times in the air on the ground. This information came from Why is Dancing So Good for Your Brain from Christopher Berglund and inspired my research to continue. But being a dancer, you don't even have to perform as artistically as athletically. Dancing requires extreme amounts of athletic ability. And so ballet classes can improve muscle capabilities, flexibility, strength, cardiovascular health, balance, because when you're a dancer and you wear point shoes, you grow 7 feet in the air, 7 inches in the air, and also bodily awareness. The dancers I talked to said, they found muscles that they never even knew were there, but they were sore there after rehearsal, and they knew more about their body that way. In addition, if you're a ballet dancer, you have a less chance of contracting Alzheimer's or dementia. But behind the curtain, there are some things behind that glittery fairy appearance that are pretty rough. For example, common foot problems due to point shoes. Bruising, black nails, losing nails, blisters, and the list goes on. And every dancer has these problems. Dancers also have to deal with exceptional pain tolerance. A study that I researched said that dancers had a 300% higher degree of exceptional pain tolerance than the average person. Michael Nunn broke his big toe while performing and didn't know it until the performance was over. Begona Cow said, "I didn't realize I'd broken it at the time because you're so used to taking the pain." He broke his metatarsal while on stage. Kim Pauley, who is the artistic director for the Charleston Ballet, broke several of her ribs while performing and had no idea until after the performance. This is why most dancers carry new skin. But dancers don't just have to be athletically superior, they also have to be artistic. In Swan Lake, there are 2 prima roles, Odette and Odile. And Odette is the dying, cursed swan, while Odile is the enchanting, teasing swan. And they're both competing for Prince Siegfried's affection. But they're played by the same person. They're danced by the same ballerina. So, in Act 1, 2, and 4, a dancer must look sorrowful and sad and cursed, while in Act 3, over there, she must be enchanting and teasing and confident compared to Odette. And outside of the studio, dancers see a lot of benefits from ballet classes as well. They have self-discipline and time management, and they see the effects of the preparation that they do for practicing months and months and months. They also know that if you're a ballet dancer, it's almost more helpful than having a home economics class. Also, for children especially, it's a social outlet for making new friends and growing up with those people because you're with them so much, and forming relationships. These are just some examples of what you do in a ballet, what you do for yourself with point shoes that is more beneficial than a home ec class. Ballet dancers do use hammers to break in their point shoes. And this just demonstrates the social outlet. A group of dancers in a company together usually have grown up with each other since they're 5 or 6 or maybe 7. And they have that bond with each other even when they're 20 and 25 and that kind of thing. Ballet can also be used as rehabilitation. Tulsa in Oklahoma, Ballet Leaps Ahead program benefited Courtney McElroy, a deaf student, by increasing her test scores by 28%, increasing her vertical jump by 2 inches, and increasing an overall 1 inch of flexibility. Also in Australia, ballet classes have been used to treat stroke and brain injury patients. In an interview with Kim Polly, I discussed these things with her and how ballet has benefited her as well as the benefits she's seeing with her students now that she is teaching and not actively dancing and that kind of thing. And she says dancers now have to be so much more versatile than they were before. She can remember wearing cowboy boots in Country Moon and then changing in intermission and then going into a tutu in a classical ballet dance and having to perform that way. And just the changing between those two forms. She says you really have to be an artist to do that, to change in that way. She also says ballerinas really think in a whole different way. For example, if you're asked to reverse an exercise, how many times have you had to reverse something in your life? Whereas we see coupe here as coupe here in reverse exercises, and we're just taught to think that way. But there are limitations of dancing, the main one being injuries. For example, back pain, especially for male dancers who have to do lifts, fractures, tendinitis, and even broken bones, as well as the common injuries like sprains and minor injuries. Also, cheating your turnout is a really bad thing that can mess up your hip alignment. For example, this is my turnout, but if I try to do this, I'm really changing my hip out of socket, which is, it messes up the alignment in your knee and your foot and your hip. Also, beginning point work too early is really common for young dancers, and it's very bad. It's almost injuring because they don't have the strength or the technique to do that. They have a very good chance of hurting themselves that early. The common age for starting is 12 years old. Also, dancers usually have a pressure to lose weight to make their bodies more aesthetically pleasing and that kind of thing. And that's common in ballet dancers all over the world. In conclusion, whether you're 4 years old, or you're 20 years old, or you're Miss Deb Novak, who's approaching her 60s, and can still do an arabesque higher than mine, you can benefit from ballet in any form, in any kind, in class, or rehearsal, or performing, or that kind of thing. And it's really a very special thing that's beneficial for everyone, whether you're short, or you're just growing up, or whether you're pursuing it in your later life. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a few questions for you. How did you handle the differing perspectives in order to reach a conclusion?
Well, many people who haven't danced before usually have a very different perspective than actual dancers. Dancers tell you the nitty-gritty of everything and tell you, if they broke their metatarsal on stage, that they didn't know that they broke it because they're just so used to being exposed to pain like that. And so you really had to weed out between who really knew the facts and who maybe had seen a study and was reporting on that study but didn't understand certain things. For example, when it says dancers have a higher degree of geometric representation, the author did not explain how that's how that develops or why that's explainable. However, Kim Polly was able to tell me that, yes, that's because you have to create a stick straight line on stage, and you have to create a circle, and it has to be symmetrical so you can see it, and that kind of thing. So.
Okay, very good. And how does your conclusion respond to any of the other research or sources you examined?
Well, I examined many sources, and really they all very much encourage people of all ages to examine ballet and to try ballet because it is so beneficial. However, most sources don't actually say that, whether you're 4 years old or you're 20 or you're, 70, that you can do ballet. But at the Charleston Ballet, where Kim Polly is the artistic director, they have a class Tuesday night that includes 70 to 80-year-olds in ballet. So I was really able to see the difference between some of the sources and then some of the ones that, explore all the options for people.
Okay, thank you very much.